This video is just going to talk you through the layout of Excel. If you're used to using Excel, you're probably going to know a lot of this, but I am going to show you a few tips regarding your quick access toolbar and your menu here. So it's worth just sticking with, where you can listen to this while you're doing other things, and hopefully your ears will prick up when I mention something you don't know yet. This is your work area. You'll be adding values to cells, or you might be sent a worksheet that's already fulfilled. So these are the cells. The columns have a letter. The rows have a number. Therefore, this cell here is A1, and it's actually up here. Here, I mean B2 up there. And here we have C3. When you're doing your formulas, you're going to be referencing some of these cells and also ranges. Each tutorial is going to help you progress. I'm going to teach you new things each time and perhaps mention a few things I've already taught you just as a refresher or to show you where you might apply that knowledge. When I first started using Excel, I did just click around on things to work out what they did. Obviously, you'd want to do that on a brand new worksheet or workbook. This whole Excel file is a workbook, and this is a worksheet. So you can always go to File, New, and Blank Workbook to open a new one. Or if you already have a file open, you can File, Save As, and then perhaps save it as something different to have a new copy of it. Obviously, you don't want to play around too much with a report that you're already working on or that your colleagues are working on. So I can type a number in here and a number in here, and I can do a calculation. Equals, and I can just select it, this plus this, and you can see up there equals A1 plus B1, A1 plus B1, enter, and there's my result. That's a very basic calculation. Now I've got my numbers here. Rather than doing this formula here, I could just highlight these, and this is my status bar down here. The average is 2. The count is 2. It's 2 cells I've highlighted there that have values in. The minimum is 1. The maximum is 3. So that's the lowest and the highest value in that range. And the sum is 4. That's the addition of those two. If you right click here, usually these aren't options. When you look down here, it will just be average, count and sum. If you're just highlighting text, it will just be count. So you can right click and include these. As well as clicking on things up here just to see what they do, you can just right click in certain areas and it'll bring up different menus. Right click down there and there's other options. Right click on here, they're your sheet options. So it is just a case of clicking around. Sometimes you find things by accident. You might right click on something rather than left click and then suddenly find these options appear. So these cells that you're working on in this sheet is your work area. This is your worksheet. I can add a worksheet. I can right click here, insert worksheet. I can double click here and rename this. And there's lots of options. I can add a colour. And if I right click here, I can just delete this. Or I can hide sheet 2 and unhide it. Just need to make sure you're clicking on the right things. So you've got your work area, your worksheets, and your status bar. You might not know when you're on your status bar. I've got blank here, so I can't really access it. But if I were to put values in, there we go. This is my formula bar. I'll do videos later where we use different formulas. It's a little bit more advanced. And this is where you write and edit them. This is my menu. And this is my ribbon. Home is the default. Normally when you open a workbook, it's normally going to come up on the Home tab. These are more your basic options and your formatting options. And a lot of what you'll need is on this ribbon. You can insert tables, pivot tables, pictures, shapes, icons, charts, and symbols. some layout options, some formula options, and we'll go through these as we get more advanced and when we actually need them. Data I use quite a lot, it's quite a lot here that's useful. These are more advanced. You might be familiar with these if you use Word or PowerPoint. They've got similar options there. I will in other videos be showing you some shortcuts you can use. One trick I'm going to show you is how you can add a tab. I call it tabs, some people might call it pages, or it's just the menu here. I've got all my useful ones on this home tab, and I've got various ones here. If you're not familiar with Excel, you might need to spend a while clicking through these to find what you want. Like, oh, I want to find my data validation. I could be clicking here for ages. It's actually here, but it's not that easy to find. If I use this all the time, I could actually save this to a new tab. I could save all my useful commands to a tab. So if we go to File, Options, Customize Ribbon, it automatically defaults to popular commands here. We might want to change that in a second when we want to start adding commands to a tab. Let's just look at the tabs first. Main tabs, Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data. So we've got these here, we can see this. Then if we look at Home, Clipboard, Font, Alignment, Clipboard, Font, Alignment. There are groups. And if we look at Clipboard, these options are here. So if I have some commands that I use regularly and I don't want to be trawling through each of these, I just want to click on a tab and those useful ones are going to be there straight away. I can select here, New Tab. Let's come up here, New Tab, rename, Favorites. Okay, it's automatically come up with a new group as well. Rename, Tools. I'm probably not going to look at the popular commands because they're on here already and might be obvious. So there's no point on my favourites me adding some of these here, like the font or the formatting ones. Because my Excel is probably going to default to the Home tab anyway, they're within reach and they're quite easy to find anyway. So let me just go to All Commands. I'm just going to add a few here. I'm going to add a calculator. Add. See now it's come under here. Camera, add. It's going to pick one more and select current region. There we go. Okay. Here it is. I could also move it around if I want this near the end. I could just go back, File, Options, Customize Ribbon, and see my favourites there. I could just move it down. Just have it at the end. Okay, so now it's there. Here's my calculator. 8, add 6. Obviously, I'd more likely put 8, 6, and then I could do equals 8 plus 6. Or I could do in the cell here equals 8 plus 6. Select current region, so selecting that group because they have consecutive values. It thinks that's classes that as a region. Or maybe had some more numbers here, and I did select current region. It classes that as a region. But this is mainly just to show you my new tab here, my tools. I named that myself. That's my group, and I selected these 3 commands. Another option. And this is probably what I tend to use. I'm quite familiar with Excel, so I know a lot of my formatting options are here, and most of my other useful ones are on my Data tab. What I could do is add commands to my Quick Access toolbar, so it's just always here. Whatever tab I'm on, this is always just right at the top. So to edit or add to your Quick Access toolbar, File, Options, it's the same place. We went to Customize Ribbon before, now we're going to the Quick Access toolbar. You might hear it called QAT, Quick Access toolbar. So you can see on my Quick Access toolbar, they're greyed out just because I'm in here, but I've got my auto filter, my $, camera, calculator, auto filter, $, camera, calculator, and then just a few more here that I use quite regularly. So all I would need to do is just click on here, add, and that would come up as well. I've got quite a few on here, so you can't actually see it come up. It's going to be on my drop down here. And I can just click on here, remove it. The $sign I use quite a lot. Don't tend to use the others that often. So again, you can just flick through here and see what you use. I'm on popular commands at the moment, so they might already be somewhere fairly easy to access. So you can just look on here. Maybe commands not on the ribbon is a good option. So these are harder to access. And if you just click on here, left click, you've got some other options here for your quick access toolbar. So this was just a very quick introduction to Excel if you've never really used it before. So this is your work area, worksheets, status bar down here, formula bar. This is your menu or your tabs. These are your commands. And this is your quick access toolbar. Hopefully you already know how to do things like save, undo, redo. These are already there for you, and you've got your file options to save, open, new. Hopefully you already know how to do that. I'm not going to go through that into too much detail. Here are a few shortcuts to help you navigate your way around your worksheet and your workbook. Most of these involve holding down the Control key, which is usually in the bottom left of your keyboard. Then you've got the arrows, the up, down, left, right arrows, and also the page up and down arrows. Well, I'll go through each one quickly. So the Control and the arrows. So my arrows on my keyboard are to the right hand side just before my number keypad, but obviously you might have a different layout to me on your keyboard or your laptop. So to move to the bottom cell or row of a current column range, I've just got this data here, and there's 100 rows. If I just scroll down, just on row 103 is the last row there. That's because I've got 100 rows plus I've got a header and 2 blank rows there. So for these to work, you just need to have your cursor somewhere in the data range. Now if I hit Control arrow down, you can see there I'm on row 103. That's the last row, and I was in this column. If I was over here, Control arrow down, I'm on the bottom row there. And the same applies to the up, left and right. So if I just scroll down here, so if I'm just in this cell here, Control arrow up, I'm now in the top row there. Control arrow left, I'm here. Control arrow right, and let me just do this down here. Control arrow right and Control arrow left, Control arrow up. So that's Control with your 4 arrow keys. My home and end keys are above my arrows. On my laptop they're slightly different. They're just above my number pad. So Control Home moves to the first cell in a worksheet. So if I just have my cursor here in cell M15 and I press Control Home, you can see I've now moved to A1. So just watch this cell here. I'm in M19 now. Control Home. It moves to A1. What I can also do is just have my cell anywhere. I'm just going to choose a different cell. So I'm in J31. I can actually type in here A1. And you can see it returns me to this cell here. And Control End moves to the last cell in the worksheet. So let's just try this. So I'm going to be in A1. Control End. I'm in Y103. So 103 is my last entry on my row. If I were to have something written over here, let's just set that over here, and let's try it again. So that's in AB. Control End. So I'm now in AB 103. But again, let's just write something all the way down here. So in column AM and row 150, that's where I am now. I'm just going to write a letter. And then if I do Control Home to get me to my first tab here, and then do Control End, it's now AM 150. And again, if I want to go to a certain cell, I can just type it in here. So let's go to AX 200. Here we are, AX 200. These here are similar to what we did up here, where the cursor moved from top to bottom, left to right, but when you add the shift key as well, it actually highlights those cells. So rather than me just moving my cursor control down, and now my cursor's there, if I do control shift down, I'm highlighting that range. So it's the same for all of them. Over here, control shift right. If I just do here, control shift arrow up, and control shift left. You could obviously do two of these in a row. So here I'm going to do control shift arrow right, and still holding control shift arrow down. So then I selected that whole range there. So that should cover all of these, but you can play around with these yourself. Control shift 8. So when I say 8, I mean on your keyboard where it's got the asterisks. So this selects a current range. So if I have my cursor anywhere in here, control shift asterisk, or the 8 on the top of your keyboard, it selects that whole region. So any consecutive cells that it classes as a range, it highlights. Another way of doing it is control A, so that's all. It depends on your data, but control A can select everything for all. So that's why I sometimes just use control shift asterisk just to select the actual range of consecutive data here. Up here, you do have find and select, and you have go to special, and you could also select here current region. But I do cover these commands in one of my other basic tutorials. I'll go through all of these options in more detail. Control page down and control page up. So my page up and down on my keyboard are next to my home and end key, or on my laptop, they're just above the number pad on the top row. I'm just going to do it on another worksheet just so it's more obvious. So it moves to next and previous sheet, page down and page up. So let me just go to one. It's going to be more. So I've got a yellow and a blue here. So I'm on my yellow, control page down, control page up, control page down, control page up. So I'm just toggling between my worksheets there. Control tab moves between workbooks. So this one I've actually just called Formulas for Recording 2. And this is a dummy workbook with the colours on. So hopefully you can see when I do it. So I'm going to press Control, my tab key. So that's the 2 arrows above my caps lock. Control tab. And then control tab again. So I'm toggling through my workbooks. Obviously I might have 5 workbooks open, so I can toggle through all of those to get to the one I want. So that moves between workbooks. Control full stop. I do use this quite a lot actually. If I have a range selected, so if I have control shift right, control shift arrow down, if I'm back up the top here, I'm actually in this cell here at the moment. Although I haven't actually hit my cursor, I'm going to then unselect all that. If I press control full stop, I'm now in this, and it toggles the 4 corners of this range. So it's quite handy, rather than me scrolling up and down, to toggle through. So it's top left, top right, bottom left. And I just toggle through them. So that's control full stop. And control backspace, so control delete, the actual arrow back key rather than the delete key. If I highlight this range, control shift arrow down, and I'm at the bottom here now, I can do control backspace and it takes me back to the top. So let's just do that again. Control shift arrow down. So I'm now just at the bottom here, control backspace, it takes me back to the top, but still keeps that range selected.